not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. And it's that time of the day where we serve you stories that have made it to the front page of the national newspaper. And we'll start, of course, with Daily Trust. And under the front page of the Daily Trust this morning, we have the major headline, Call for State Police. ACF, that is Arewa Consultative Forum, NEF, Afenifere, PANDEF, back northern governors and monarchs. It has the riders there. Ekiti passes bill, Kanu in 2 weeks. Jigawa to follow soon. It is nullity without National Assembly approval. That is according to Professor Yadudu. You'll find that story there on the front page, and it continues on page 4. And right below the name marks, we have Buhari to present 19.76 trillion 2023 budget in October. This is coming from Bajabia Miller. Senators OK Orasawe's report says over 400 MDAs rigs scrapping. You'll find the details of that on page 10. Nigeria-French agency signed 25 million euro deal for power transmission project. You'll find the details of this on page 24 if you pick up the front page, the Daily Trust newspaper. And moving on to other story on the headline, Southwest PDP meets Atiku, demands Ayu's resignation. That story is on page 31. And how Smith was forced to resign as PSC chairman, that is the Police Service Commission. Police kill kidnappers, sharing ransom in forest. You'll find the details of that on page 29. And we have a belt there, 23 Abuja Kaduna train passengers still in captivity 186 days after. And in keeping with this timeline, let me quickly also run through others that have been a regular feature on the front page of the Daily Trust. Still in captivity, 11 schoolgirls of the FGC, Brini Yauri, now 455 days. One student of the Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, has now spent 428 days in captivity. These are the major stories on the front page of Daily Trust this morning.
Okay, let's quickly take a look at other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch leads with a story about Pdp crisis. Atiku Wabara meets aggrieved governors. Makinde demands Ayu's exit. And the writers there say former board chair Jibril forced to resign. Party still in crisis, says Bode George. Southwest, PDP agrees to back ex-VP. Oyo governor seeks restructuring of NWC. And you also find Ayu's resignation achievable but must be negotiated to avert crisis. This is according to Atiku and a Benue senator. And then you see a pictorial there that shows you Ekiti Road collapses. Motorists groan, seek government's intervention, and the story is on page 5 on the Punch newspaper this morning. And right at the top on page 19, you find the story about federal government, EU, AFD complete 104 billion naira electricity agreement, Senate to scrap over 400 MDAs in 2023. And on page 24, you'd see the story about bank deposits rise by 24% to 42 trillion naira. PSC chairman Smith resigns amidst police recruitment crisis. And you'd find other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. Tackle insecurity, can Anglican primate tell federal government. Customs intercept 80,000 litre tankers carrying dirty diesel. And on page 8, you see hashtag NSAS. Panel awards 289 million compensation to 74 victims. These are the major stories on the Punch this morning.
And moving on to the Nation's newspaper this morning, it has, as the major headlines, this time with politics, Makinde leads Southwest PDP on IU must go call. The riders there reads, Oyo Governor to Atiku, party must be restructured. Chair's exit must follow due process. This is coming for the former vice president. And we have right there above the name marks, Akerodolu Adebayo head teams for Tinubu. You'll find the details of that on page 4. Buhari to present budget to National Assembly next month. Details of that you find on page 8. Oyetola Adeleke bickers over report of overvoting. Buyers of seized Lagos properties to pay 2001 price. Whatever the rationale is for this, I don't know. You'll find the details of that, of course, if you pick up the Nation newspaper and open to page 28. Banks stops PTA, BTA payments in cash as scarcity persists. And 2 scientific works win $100,000 LNG prize as police kill 5 kidnapped suspects. You'll find these and others when you pick up today's copy of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on Leadership newspaper this morning. PDP crisis. IU can only be removed by amending party constitution. This is according to Atiku, and that story is on page 7. 1995 Doba Hotel bombing. I can't talk until U.S. Embassy speaks. Accused ex-U.S. envoy. I can't recall the incident Mahdi Shehu is talking about. Kaduna ex-military governor General Jafaru Issa. I'd also see police, DSS, U.S. Embassy keep mum. And you find other stories as well on the Leadership newspaper this morning. Dogara Babachir continue agitation against APC Muslim ticket. Police Service Commission Chairman Smith resigns. And then on page 19, you'll see the story about 5 die in Bochi boat mishap. And just right at the top, you'd see federal government orders buyers of seized Lagos properties to pay 2001 price. UK Police Judicial Office passed the buck on Ekwerimadu's health. And you'd find something about business revenue shortfall, Senate backs merger of MDAs. These are the major highlights on the Leadership newspaper.
And moving on to the Nigerian News Direct, still staying with political activities. PDP crisis, IU's removal possible, achievable. This is coming from Atiku. Says party law must be amended to remove embattled chairman. IU's removal will facilitate proper restructuring. This it's according to Governor Makinde. And you find there pictures on the cover page, one from the ongoing CIBN conference there with the finance minister, the president of the CIBN, as well as the chairman of Union Bank, as well as the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Fund. And the other one have the governor of Lagos State receiving an award, there on the front page. We have other stories there on News Direct. At the top of the nameplate, FEC okays $2 billion for internal road construction at NCDMB gas hub. That's in Bayelsa, I guess. 2023, Southwest PDP resolves to back Atiku, insist IU must go. ASU strike, state pro-chancellors back FG on no work, no pay. NAMI Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme, one of FG's greatest innovation. You find that as a belt directly below the pictures on the front page. Abiodun says Ogun now in private commissioning, in project commissioning period. That will be interesting. FG, EU, AFD signed 25 million euros grants to boost power supply in Nigeria's northwest. And the final story there on the front page, AFCFTA deal boost Africa's market with $3.4 trillion GDP. And this is according to Buhari. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct.
Okay, let's quickly take some of the stories on the Blueprint newspaper before we review some of these stories. The Blueprint newspaper is also leading with the story about Atiku on PDP crisis. Removing IU requires constitutional amendment. And the writers there say, ask stakeholders to focus on winning 2023 elections. For fairness, party chair must go, Makinde insists. Says if we must restructure Nigeria, PDP must lead the way. First ballot may not produce presidents. This is according to Hunkui. And you find the details of that story on page 6 on the Blueprint newspaper. You'd also see the story about Kwara. Police burst kidnappers sharing ransom, kill 2, rescue victims. EFCC, Army partner against terrorism financing. Federal government moves to strengthen border control. And on page 8, Kaduna local government councillor appoints 32 essays. Interesting. And PSC chair Smith resigns amidst controversies. And you see also the story about the Arosanye report. Over 400 MDAs risk scrapping over low revenue. This is according to Senate. These are some of the major highlights on the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
We will now take a short breather. When we return, we would introduce our guest who would be looking at the details of the stories that made it to the front page this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's that segment where we look at what the papers are saying this morning. And we have joining us to review these headlines and provide perspectives, Mr. Salmon Salami, the media director, Justice Pen Alliance, who joins us this morning for the newspaper review. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning, sir.
Sunday, good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you.
Zainab.
I know we've been
to have
having
you.
all kinds of conversation behind the cameras. That's the privilege you get when you sit in the studio. I won't give you an insight into what we say, but we would definitely hear his perspective on the stories that make the front page. Today, Daily Trust is staying with the story on the creation of state police. And this time it is saying ACF, NEV, Afenifere, and PANDEF have thrown their weight behind the call by the northern state governors. We also understand that Ekiti has passed the bill, while Kanu is hoping to do that in 2 weeks. Jigawa would also follow soon. However, Professor Yadudu is saying it is a nullity without National Assembly's approval. It appears that we suddenly came to the realization that state police has to happen. I would like to get your thoughts on this, sir.
Sunday, I don't like what appears like sitting on a barber's chair, whereby you are just rotating and rotating without any movement. Truth be told, there is the need for state police. And why did I say so? I'm of this view because the federal system of policing has not achieved the desired result. And perhaps this is not reinventing the wheel. We had it during the colonial era. When you have people who understand the terrain, who understand the architecture, who are like the Yoruba would say, shorn of the soil, they do know where it pinches. The so-called criminals are not ghosts. They live with us. They live among us. If we have state police, chances are that they know exactly who and who are giving us sleepless nights. They are closest, or they are closer rather, to the people. And I want to believe that the idea of giving orders from Abuja and sending chief commissioners of police to a state that they do not even know anything about is not a plus. It's a minus. But I am not of the view that I don't express that optimism that having state police in itself and by itself will end the security palaver we have. But then it is the way to go.
Well, we're going to be taking a more detailed review of that story in the course of the program. But another, story closely related to this is the resignation of the PSC chairman. Did that come to you as a surprise?
No. Alhaji Musliu Smith, by all standards, has integrity. And if you will recall, there is this issue of missing money. I won't say misappropriation. I won't say it is corruption. But for whatever it is worth, for even impugning on his integrity, he feels there is the need to step aside, and he has done that. It takes people who feel that who still have what I call modicum of what value is all about, to know that if I am being accused of something, let me leave so that they can sort it out. If at the end of the day it is discovered that I'm not guilty or nothing is found, if they find it, if they deem me fit, they could still call me back, or at the worst tender an apology.
But the impression we are getting was that by some of the paper is that he was forced to leave. And then his letters advance failing health as the reason, even though he had one more year to go. So if he was forced to leave, is it right to still think that this was something that he did voluntarily in the face of his high health integrity?
Well, I want to hold the view that forced to leave. Can you force anybody to live in Nigeria? No matter what you do, if they don't want to leave, they will not leave. You remember that IBB just said that he was stepping aside. He could as well have refused to leave in view of the overwhelming, even if others are saying that you have to go, we have this against you, you have to do this, you have to that, for even living at all is a plus. Although he ought to have done this long before now.
Very interesting. Well, let's take a look at some other stories now. Another story that seems to be making headway on almost all of the dailies this morning is the one about the Orosanya report. It says Senators Orosanya report say over 400 MDAs risk scrapping. And they cited low revenue, generating low revenue as the reason for that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the cost of running government in this country is terrible. And another problem I have is this. I got it from the vineyard that we need about 90 billion to even do to downsize or to merge these ministries, parastatals together, even though it is unwieldy as it is today. But to say that if it is true that this is the amount we will need to do it, that is another thing we have to look at.
But which is cheaper in the long run? 9 billion because yes,
90 billion.
90 billion, yes, because you probably have to send some directors into early retirement and then you have to make provision for severance package. Wouldn't we rather swallow a 90 billion now than continue to endure an almost static, agencies with conflicting responsibility over a long period of time that in turn could even be much more than the 90 billion?
There is no doubt about the fact that there is the need to restructure the ministries, parastatals, as it is today. No doubt about that. But more than that, there is the need to know as well, what do we stand to gain by doing it? If we look at the cost implication and what are the benefits of doing it, then perhaps it will give us an idea of the right way to go. But definitely there is duplication in the ministries and parastatals as they stand today.
Okay.
No doubt about that.
Before Zainab moves to the next story, I still want us to stay with this. There are some school of thought that believe that the House of Assembly or even the administration in general is just playing to the gallery. This issue has been there right from the start of this administration. We kept paying lip service to it. We did nothing about it in the first tenure. And just at the twilight, where we are at the point of drawing the curtains on the life of this administration, the conversation is coming up when we know that for some of these agencies, they would indeed have to repeal the acts that set them up. And these are all processes that may not even be concluded by this assembly. Are they not playing to the gallery, you know, haven't denied this reality for nearly 7 years?
Sunday, it is better late than never. If it's the right way to go, it is better we do it. Although we know how the country works. It's unfortunate that this thing has been on the table for quite some time. Or also a report? Since when? But like I always say, it is better late than never. If it's the right way to go, let us do it. It is unwieldy, the cost of running government. And in any case, there is a lot of duplication. EFCC, ICPC, NNDP, what exactly are we doing? What exactly are we doing? It is just job for the boys. And they are not really rendering service. Is it justifiable? The jumbo amount of money being spent on all these parastatals, is it justifiable? If it's the right thing to do, no matter how late, let us do it. But then I will ask, let us be very sincere about it. Let's be sincere. There is the need for sincerity of purpose.
Quite interesting. Well, there's this story that initially when I spelt it out, the one in the Blueprint newspaper that talked about Kaduna local government councillor appoints 32 essays, and you giggled when you heard about that story. What are your... Are we really... Do you know what we're doing as a country?
You want us to spill the bean. Honestly, I'm not too sure if we think. Do we think at all? If a councillor needs 32 aides, I wonder what how many aides would the governor need? It is still part of the rot in the system. The salaries or emolument for these 32 aides, is it coming from his pocket? How much does he earn?
Interesting.
Let us drop this. It is unreasonable. And that's to say the least.
Interesting. Another story that made the front pages of the paper, it's the one that is recounting how long victims of the Kaduna-bound train that were kidnapped since March had spent in captivity. The story tells us 23 persons are still in captivity, and it's been 186 days. Apparently, they've crossed the 6 months mark. What's your take, especially in the light of the recent arrest of Mamu, who seemed to have been the chief negotiator, through which most of the ones that have been released were done? What's your take on all of this?
At times, when you look at what is happening in this country, you'll be lost. Honestly, every other day, my brother and friend Lai Mweme will say that we have decimated the insurgents. There is a disconnect between the government and the people, no doubt about that. Otherwise, there is no way why my good brother and friend will continue to say that they have decimated the insurgents. The truth is this, they have not. And when you have somebody in captivity, what is important to you is how do I get my people out of captivity? Tukur Mamu, of course, I won't deny him, is my friend. Is my very close friend. And negotiating with bandits and getting result is not what I will approve of. But when the government has failed you, what do you do? What do you do? Well, They said what they have against Mamu is mind-boggling. Yes, mind-boggling is a claim. What has been mind-boggling since? Let us know what is mind-boggling. Let us know what exactly do you have against him. We are not saying that negotiating with criminal is the best thing. It can never be. It is not. But in the absence of failure of security, what do? You mean if they have their people there, they will just say that they should be there? Spending years with them? Kiri is not Sheraton.
It's not.
Kiri is not Sheraton, and it can never be.
Well, another political story here is the one about the PDP crisis. And Atiku is saying removing IU requires constitutional amendment. So there's just so much drama, happening in the PDP as we look ahead of the 2023 elections.
It is not only in PDP. It is in all other parties. The ADC that is even not well known said they suspended their presidential candidate. Just to let you know that it is not in PDP alone. It's in the APC, it's in other parties. Let me state this clearly. Wherever you have human beings, there's bound to be conflict. What is more important is not really the conflict, how it is resolved. Well, I do not want to dabble into what is going on in PDP because Wike has his own argument. BOT has resigned because Wike said that it is not BOT, it is IU that must go. And Atiku has his own argument too, thinking that, it is not ideal now to do that because what of the aftermath of removing him? And in any case, I have been a political reporter for 39 years, and I believe very much that the essence of having a political party is to win election. Whatever will make them win election is what they should do. That is what should be paramount in their thinking. If they feel that removing IU now is the problem and that removing IU will make them win election, good luck to them.
Interesting. I still want to pick one more story from the Blueprint newspaper, which highlights the impacts of this year's flood. It says here on page 9, flood destroy over 200 houses, displaced thousands in Benue. We have seen a similar level of destructions in Kano, in Katsina, and I think one more state, in Lagos, of course. And there are warnings now, clearly, that we may be seeing the level of destructions that we witnessed in 2012. What do you think that the state governors and even citizens, especially in floodplain areas, should be doing with this kind of reportage?
Well, what should they be doing? Tell me, what should they be doing that they don't know what they should be doing? Dereliction of duty. Flooding is a consequence of neglect. Nature will always have its way, no matter what you do. If we feel that we can ignore and neglect nature, nature will remind us of our neglect. Nature will remind us of our recklessness and perhaps irresponsibility. If you block drainages, what do you expect? And of course, climate change is there, we all know. You see, it's just that we are so reactionary. We are not proactive. We do not care. We feel that you just do as you feel. No, there is order in nature. In fact, the first law in heaven is that order. Where there is order, things will go well. Where there is disorderliness, don't expect peace.
Yeah, but some people would argue that, the impact of this flood, extend beyond even the communities that are responsible. For instance, you talked about climate change. Africa contributes just about 3% of the global we present to global warming, but suffers most of the consequences. What I'm saying is, how much should our state actors, agencies that are deliberately designed, to move, how much should they be doing? Because we see in foreign countries where there is supposed to be a hurricane or something, they have this public alarm system that goes off, and then a reminder, and at the apex of that is a concrete arrangement for evacuation. Right. Because for some persons who are struggling to make a living daily, the idea of even moving is not there. They just keep, like you said, they just keep saying it probably won't get to us. It probably won't get this far. But if we have agencies who go out of their way to tell people that these places are definitely going to be impacted, we have a makeshift camp. If it doesn't, you can return to your houses. Perhaps that will be helping people.
We have Nestria.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is Nestria doing? Do we really have, we have NOA, National Orientation Agency. Do they really sensitize people? Ahead, we have NIMET. I know NIMET is at least trying.
Right.
The thing is this thing doesn't happen just
accidentally.
By accident. It is not an accident. We know those areas that are prone to flooding. What have we done about it? Day year in, year out. The thing is this. You see, a poor man who is living in a place that is prone to flooding is doing that, is taking that risk. He knows it's a risk. But the point is that, can he help himself? Has government come to his aid? He should not be allowed to kill himself, because that is suicide about to happen. But then, like I always say, that poverty dulls the brain. There is the need for the government to assist these people. If they have a choice, they will not be there in the first instance, because I'm not sure they want to die. Because by staying in a flood-prone area, that you know that flood has swept many of your neighbors away in the years past, and you are still there, then something is wrong somewhere. But like I said, there is the need for these agencies that are assigned this job to be more alive to their responsibility. And there is the need for government too to do the needful, because as we say that poverty, you even need to be alive first.
Absolutely. Well,
the dead, they don't need money.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning. We've been speaking with Salmon Salami. He's Media Director, Justice Pen Alliance, helping us review the papers this morning on the program, and we do hope to have you next time.
Thank you for having me. I just pray that I won't be coming here to wrong comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that